True Story Media.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Some things work better together. Like NARS's Soft Matte Complete Concealer and Radiant Creamy Concealer. Soft Matte Complete Concealer erases and blurs imperfections with full coverage. Then, Radiant Creamy Concealer evens and brightens with a luxurious texture and radiant finish. 2 concealers, 1 flawless look. Perfect for a no-foundation base. NARS, better together. Visit Ulta to shop now.
Hey, it's Britt. Thank you so much for listening to Season 2 of You Probably Think This Story is About You. In Season 1, I shared the most personal details of my life. And in the second season, we started to share other people's stories. It's been a big transition, and we learned a lot talking with Lou and Eve, Cash, and Gina and Viv. I was curious to catch up with each of them. I wanted to know what their experience has been like after sharing their stories for the show. So I called up Lou and Eve. Today, I am having a conversation with Lou and Eve, who were episodes 2, 3, and 4 in Season 2. Lou, you started all of this by reaching out to a stranger, which was Eve, and then another stranger, which was me. And now there's a whole world of strangers that have listened. How has this process helped you through what you were sort of hoping in the beginning, which is getting some sort of understanding or closure of your relationship with John?
I think it's made me own it a little bit more and just carry it a little bit lighter, if that makes sense, in terms of I've faced it head on. I was actually in one of the areas whereby he assaulted me years ago, and I drove to the place unknowingly, and then I double checked it, and then I went back and I was like, feel nothing. And it was okay because I wasn't sure whether I would tremble and I was just like, okay, there it is.
Or have that same reaction when you saw him at the barber shop.
Exactly.
Like if you've been able to take control, it seems, of the narrative for yourself. That's amazing. Have you shared this podcast with any of your people?
3. One at a time, very slowly.
Were they people that knew the story or some aspect of it?
Bits, I suppose. It was very tidily put together, so thank you. It was certainly more organized than my brain could have unscrambled piece by piece. The first person that listened to it was my partner. And I basically sat on his lap while he was listening. I was kind of like, what part are you at?
What was your partner's response?
He listened to all 3 back to back. And then there was a bit of silence, just I think his brain sort of chewing on it. He knew a lot of what had happened, and I suppose it was hard for him to hear it, right into his ear. But he just said he was immensely proud and he thought it was amazing.
I've had a lot of the similar reactions to people in my life. Like they know parts of the story, but maybe not the full thing. And when they do get to hear it in that full depth, I think it really shifts the perspective, but allows us to understand the people in our lives a little bit better. So, Eve, have you shared this with anyone?
I've shared it with a few people. There's very few people in my life that know anything of the story apart from maybe Lou and John too. I have 2 children with 2 different dads, and they both happened to have the same name. So I don't think he's listened to it, but he does know quite a lot of the story. And I don't think he wants to listen to it because I think it would be very hard for him to hear Lou's side of it, even though he knows that Lou and I have a friendship and that we talk. I think there will be a lot of aspects of it that he wouldn't. There's a lot of aspects of the story that he doesn't like anyway.
As someone who was initially guarded about connecting with Lou, which makes absolute perfect sense, how has this experience of opening up, not just with sharing your story on the podcast, but connecting more with Lou, how has that been for you?
I think as Lou has got to know me, that she realises I'm just quite guarded anyway. It's just how I am. I'm just, when it takes a while to get to know me. But I mean, there was a time when I saw John again in a barber shop, and I had my son with me, and as it happened, I was expecting my second son, and I could see he was visibly shocked that I was pregnant again. And he'd grown this big, huge beard, and he tried to be really smart at me, and I just turned around and I said to him, "Look, I can't take you seriously. You look like you're chewing on a cat." And I think the fact that he knows I'm not afraid of him, and he knows I'm not afraid to stand up to him, so he's a little bit different with me, but it has left me, I suppose, very guarded, especially in my job. I wouldn't, like, when I was expecting my second son, a lot of people assumed that I'd had a teenage pregnancy and that I still lived at home with my parents. Now, I was in that job 10 years at that stage, and they didn't know that I was actually nearly 30 when I had my first son, and I was nearly 40 when I had my second son. He's nearly 10 now. Next year I'm going to be 50 and I'm having a party, or I'm going to Vegas, I'm doing something big. But it has, I think, talking to Lou definitely helped me through a really, really rough time in my life. And our friendship, she's always kind of cheered me on and always encouraged me. And like, we have, what we'd say in Ireland, we have the crack, we have the laugh.
I know for me, the friendships that I made in connecting with the other women that had experienced Canaan the same way I did are ones that I'm going to have forever because of that. There isn't a need to explain myself to them. They understand the base of how it feels. So I feel like I don't have to justify myself to them. And it seems like that's the same thing that you guys have, which is just that not having to explain the baseline of your feelings.
100%. And like Eve said, cheering each other on, kind of going, she's like, I hope I get this job. And I'm like, I know you'll get this job, because I think both of us can see where that little chip has been taken away. And it's like, well, if you don't believe in you, I'm here, so that's fine.
No, just to tell you, I actually got another job offer just as I was signing in here.
Told you.
That's 4 this week.
Congratulations. That's amazing. What's been the most challenging part for you of sharing with not just us, but knowing that it's now public?
The day I knew the podcast was coming out, I was quite emotional. I think it was mostly because I've never really spoken to anybody that is in my life now about it. And I don't really see any need to. I don't believe in discussing things that to me are really personal for entertainment purposes, on TV, like at work. That's my personal life. I went through absolute hell and back with John, and I mean, he put, actually, I probably should rephrase that. He put me through hell, and he knew he was putting me through hell, and he enjoyed it.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey, it's Britt. I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about the importance of therapy. It can feel like a big investment, but the state of your mind is just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session. That adds up fast. But with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save, on average, up to 50% per session. Therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. With online therapy, you can get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/probablythink today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/probablythink. Hey, it's Britt. I wanted to take a minute to talk about Quince. We all know how much I love my black silk washable skirt. They have lightweight European linen styles from $30, washable silk tops, and comfy lounge sets. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. One of my favorite things is that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/Brit for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your next order. That's QUINCE.com/BRIT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Brit. Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Last year, save more money was the number one New Year's resolution in America, but it is so hard to do. I have never been able to easily save money. Acorns makes it so you can start automatically saving and investing your money, giving it a chance to grow for you, your kids, and your retirement. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can even start with $5 or your spare change. Head to acorns.com/youprobably or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. This is a paid, non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 2 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/youprobably.
So I think facing that part of it was hard for me, but it's all learning, it's all growth, but it was very hard. It was painful looking back at the stuff.
There was a comment on part 2, and the listener had said, Eve, you're a warrior. And that was it. I really liked that comment because I think it really encompasses the things that you've been through. And I think the things that you've been through kind of alone and silently. And to go from that to sharing with everyone, it really does make a difference to the other women, and not just women, but mainly women in the world that are also going through that same thing. It means a lot to people. Lou, you sort of started this with wanting to figure it out, and I'm sure didn't anticipate this is where you were going to end up.
No, I think I had said to I don't know if I'd said it to you guys before, but like if someone had said like, oh, what's your dating history? I'd be like, oh, I was with this guy. He was a bit mental. We broke up. End story. Next. Whereas I think I had sort of packed that all away neatly. And then I think as I got older and then I was like, oh, and I think kind of owning that. And like Eve said there about, your personal life is not for entertainment. I would never bring that up to people I didn't know or even people I did know because it's nothing to do with them. Being alone in it is the worst because you don't want to tell anybody because you think that they think bad of that person. And what if you make up with them tomorrow? And it's the classic thing of when you're friends with someone in school and you say it to your mom, like, oh, they stole my whatever. And your mom hangs on to that shit for 20 years. And you're like, well, he could be a nice guy tomorrow. So, you try to hide it as much as you can. And then when it's all over, you're just like, okay, it's done. Let's just, whereas now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that happened. And
I don't know if you guys listened to Cash's story, which came after yours, but her daughter's older, and a lot of what she's shared with her daughter. And I think having mothers, which your kids have, that are willing to share so that other people feel less alone, is really powerful. And I just wonder, do you think that you're going to talk to your daughter, obviously, when she's older? Do you think you would let her listen?
Yeah, I'd certainly be really keen to make sure that she knows what she won't tolerate a lot quicker than I had. And I'm certainly mindful of it. Like, if her dad and I are having a row, I'm like, she's watching you. So how you behave with me and how I let you treat me, she's watching it. So unless you want her to come home in 75 years when she starts dating with that fucker, then watch, and now Jesus, we just row. There's nothing at all like that. Like Eve had said, she teaches her son to be the opposite of what he came from. And I can see that. Like, such a gentleman, spoils the girlfriend, so sweet. And I think that's kind of a gift, dare I say it?
It is a gift. Eve, I was just going to say, because you have a child with John, a son, there is a unique situation where you're trying to make sure that you're not bad-mouthing his father, because there are psychological things that happen there, but also making sure he's aware that those behaviors are not, how you should treat women. It has to have been so complicated to navigate that.
Both my boys have girlfriends. Now, with the younger one, I kind of encourage it more as like a friendship thing, but he will go into the supermarket and he will pick up a bunch of flowers and put them into the basket and say, oh, they're for this particular friend. And, they're both very kind and they're both very thoughtful, and that's not something that you can kind of put into kids. I think it's either there or it's not. But with the younger one at the moment, I got a journal, and basically he fills in things about him, and, like there's little things in it, like, where, if you lived on an island, what would it be like? And then, what's your favourite memory of me? And then I do the same for him. And I think it's really important for kids to write it down, because then it's not in their head. The younger one got into trouble one day in school, now very, very minor, and he came home. He used a word that he shouldn't have. So we got what we call the Stuff It book. And he has a book that he can write down whatever he needs to externalize, and then, that's it, dealt with it. And I did that with the older one as well, but just in a different way. It's kind of more, it's easier to do it now than it would have been 10, 20 years ago. Well, sorry, it would have been about 15 years ago when he was going through the stuff with his dad.
But I do think that having that ability to communicate however it needs to happen. I've raised both girls and boys, and they communicate very differently with me about feelings and stuff. And you guys are both coming at it from, Lou, you have a daughter, and Eve, you have two sons. So it's interesting to see how you guys have also connected through parenting and having conversations, even the lighthearted, fun stuff, which is probably the most important part. Lou, you told us in the very beginning that it's the Irish way. You don't talk about your feelings.
No, sure. Like, my cousin just rang the door like 15 minutes before this. And my immediate thought, you run through all the people it could be. And I was like, who the fuck? And I just answered the door and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, yes. And he was like, your face. And I was like, is this my who the fuck is that? What do you want? He was like, okay, well, how is everyone? I was like, well, this fella, this isn't, and sure. And he was like, Jesus, what's going on? I said, well, we can't talk about it. He was like, okay. Is there anything I can do? I was like, no, sure, we didn't have this conversation. He was like, okay. See you later. So, yeah.
So you got to the root of what the issue is.
It was a nod, and then I heard the car pull away, and I was like, right, that's dealt with. It's fine.
Oh, I think I told Lou, I think I told you this, but there was a knock at my door on Valentine's Day, and I could see the two people coming up the drive, and I went, I'm not opening that, because I didn't know who it was. And when I went out anyway, and there was this letter, I think I still have it downstairs. If I do, I'll take a picture and share it with you. And it was addressed to the resident, and there was all these like fluffy stickers on it. And I opened it, and I was like, the heck is this? Like, opened it. The letter from the Jehovah's Witnesses. The only thing I got in my door.
Yep.
That's they're sneaky.
It's just, yeah.
The extent of romance in my life.
It's there's an ad. Have you seen it, Eve? It's I'll send it to the group, but it's an Irish ad, and it's for a cell phone company, and the dad is trying to connect, or the son is trying to connect with the dad, and they don't live together, and they're on FaceTime, and he's going, Jesus, Dad, tell me how you are, and he's going, oh, I just have to do this and I have to do that. Dad, how are you? And he goes, sure, you know yourself. And they're like, this is how the Irish communicate.
Yep.
So this whole idea of podcast and feelings, and it's like.
So did you, Lou, I'll ask you first. Did you establish boundaries or decide what you were going to share before, or did you just hop on the call with me and...
No, very much just hopped on the call.
Yeah. I did the same thing. So, does it feel like that was a good decision? Because to me, it felt authentic. You know, how you, yeah.
I mean, you sent me a text or an Instagram message back, and you're like, would you like to jump on a call? And I was like, no. Yes. Okay. And you're like, I'm just going to send you the invite and, whatever. And I was like, totally in my head. I was like, I'm not going. And then before I knew it, I'm at the desk like, yeah, so this happened and that happened. And then I remember texting Eve and going, she's not going to go for this. And she was like, yeah.
Eve, how about you? I think that you are really great at the boundaries that you've already established in your life. You say you're guarded. To me, it feels more like you know what your boundaries are and what you're willing to sort of, where you're comfortable. How did you feel about the stuff that you shared? And because, we had a couple follow-up calls, and things that come up as you share your story, you remember more and hear different things.
I think I said all along that there were parts of the story that I wasn't going to share because they're not my part of the story to share. I'm really happy with how you handled what I did share, and I think it was more things started to come up for me because I've been doing exams and I had an awful lot on my mind. I'd had a very, very, very busy 2 years. I finished one college course, and 8 weeks later I started straight into another one. And it kind of took me until now really to kind of catch my breath. I'm 6 months qualified now in another qualification. But more kind of started to come up. But if you'd asked me 2 years ago, would I have shared? It would have been a flat no, because I was simply too busy. I had too much on. I wouldn't have had the time even for this call, to be honest. But I am happy with what I shared, and I think the story, Lou wasn't on this call, but I talked about how you put a frog into hot water or into a pot of water, and he'll jump back out, and then you put the frog in. I think that, to me, I keep going back to that, and just how I didn't notice at the start, and then as the heat turned up was when I started to notice. But I have set boundaries for myself. I was asked, would I take on another voluntary position? Now, it's within the job that I'm in now, and I want to leave that. So I said, no, I've enough on. And I'm more comfortable now saying, no, I can't. I've enough. I can't do any more than what I'm doing.
I think that that's phenomenal. I think part of it comes from sharing stories and feeling a little less alone and more empowered. I also think part of it is just every year I get a little higher after 40. I care less and less about what other people think. And it's like, no, I'm going to say no. And it's okay. I don't have to do everything all the time. This question isn't on Sid's list. Don't get mad at me, Sid. Lou, what was it like listening to Eve's part of the story in the episodes? Because you guys didn't hear what you each shared until it released.
It was incredible because I suppose, well, firstly, a lot of mine and Eve's relationship is like written. So at the start, it would have been text because we would have had to know each other quite well before we started voice noting. And our relationship has been building very slowly as two damaged women. But it was incredible to hear her voice and how strong she sounded, and to hear the whole thing put together, I suppose, in one piece. And there were bits that I hadn't heard. And I guess we had been relating on things like, oh, that exact same thing happened to me. And that exact same behavior, or, oh, he said he was an accountant. He told me he was whatever. So it was interesting to hear a very similar story from a different perspective, I guess.
Eve, how is it for you?
I think you handled it very sensitively and it was very well done. At the time it was released, I couldn't listen for a day or two because I was working and there was other stuff going on, and I wanted to give it my full attention. But when I did, I was like, a lot of it I did know, but there were parts of it that I didn't know. And there's probably parts of it that I'll never know. But I am and I've said this to Lou, I am really grateful for her friendship because it got me through so many, such a rough patch. And I was doing exams and Lou was like, pew, 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 you've got this nailed. And I think she was probably one of the first people that I told when I passed. And I think she probably deserved to be one of the first people to know because she'd listened to me win so much.
I was dying to know. Hurry up.
Well, I think I did tell you fairly quick.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I did.
I want to say thank you to both of you. It means so much that you reached out initially, Lou, and that you both then agreed to share your story. And I think we can all agree that Sid did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Editing and sharing it in a way that Eve, like you said earlier, it's not meant to be entertainment. It's meant to be relatable, I think. I don't want to share stories to be sensational. And I think you both did a phenomenal job being authentic and really letting people see that there's a full picture around these sorts of relationships.
I just want to say thanks to both of you putting this together so incredibly. And I even started bopping around to the theme song connected to trauma, but
it's a banger.
There's one thing I think I would like to say. I think the title of the podcast was very appropriate, the photograph, because you keep I think it's time now we just put the memories on the shelf and we take a new photograph, like the Ed Sheeran song. That was probably cheesier than a cheese string dipped in fondue, but it's time to take a new photograph.
You can support the show by joining us on Apple Podcasts or Patreon. Episodes are available early and ad-free. Our executive producer is me, Brittani Ard. Our senior producer and editor is Sydney Gladu. Story consulting by Mariah Gossett. Sound engineering by Sean Simmons. Graphic design by Nigella Shama. Opening theme by Youth Star and Miscellaneous. You Probably Think This Story's About You is a production of BDE Unlimited Productions. You can follow me for updates at brittani.ard on all social media platforms. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I love responding to comments on Spotify. Trolling the trolls is my new favorite pastime.